Hey everybody, welcome to Whip It Good with Jimmy Hack. We got a really cool guest today. Not only cool, but some of his stories are unbelievable. You know what? Starting Orange Whip, the one thing I didn't really think about was I'm going to end up meeting a lot of interesting people, and in different kind of ways, usually at golf-related events, but you meet a lot of cool people, and then have the chance to get to know them, learn more about them even better. In January of 2024, Orange Whip is at the PGA show. And every now and then you notice a booth selling something that is just stocked with people around it. All these PGA pros. Well, that booth was the Putt Master, developed by Jody Vasquez. So our guest today is Jody Vasquez.
Jim, thank you for having me.
You bet. This is great. But everyone was there looking at it, curious, interested. But they were still wanting to get this out to the masses because all you regular golfers, this is the thing you need. But they were great with the PGA pros because pros get it right away. But the average player, again, who needs it most, didn't quite understand it. So we teamed up summer of 2024. We changed the color to orange, as you would hope. And
Yes, it fit. It fit.
so we ended up changing it, but we're now sharing it with everyone. But you know what? Stick around. We're going to go through a whole background on this and how it came to be and what it can do for you. Let's get into it. I want to tell you a little bit about Jody.
I hope it's all the good.
I'll do
There's
my
plenty of
best.
bad.
Jody grew up in Fort Worth, Texas,
Yes, I did.
and you, through a friend, somehow got a job at Shady Oaks Country Club.
I get asked that story all the time, and the way it happened in geometry class in the 10th grade, a fellow leaned across the aisle from me, and he was actually working in the bag room at Shady Oaks. And being there, he was being transferred because he was an Army brat or an Air Force brat. And his dad, who was stationed there, was going to be sent somewhere else. So he leaned over and he said, "What are you going to do this summer?" And I said, "I have no clue. I got to find a job to do something." And he said, "You want to go work at Shady Oaks in the bag room?" And I said, "Sure." And so that's how it got started.
Wow. Now, were you aware of Ben Hogan pretty strongly at this point?
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
My idols were Bob Cousy and, some of the football guys at the Cowboys, and but no, nothing to do with golf. Now, I started playing golf a couple of years before that, and so that world was opening up to me. And I mean, if you asked me who Ben Hogan was, I could tell you, he's a golfer.
Yeah.
But I had never studied him or never cared to.
Okay.
So
Wow.
It was a totally new world.
So you start working at Shady Oaks, and any of you Hogan aficionados know that he was the type of guy who wasn't at a driving range much. He'd find a location on a golf course and hit shots.
Yeah, he hit in two specific areas.
At Shady?
Yeah, and one was they were both on the back nine. But what's important about where he practiced was that he wanted, when he practiced, for the wind to always hit him in the chest. And the reason he told me he did that is that he didn't want to worry about balance. Like if the wind's either this angle or it's behind you, you're not working, you're working against the wind. And so you're not going to be able to focus on what you do in your swing mechanically. And so he had two specific areas, depending on the time of the year, that he would go to so that the wind would always consistently be in his chest.
See, that's great too, because just me personally, I hate it when the wind's at my back because I do feel off balance, and I feel like I come over the top with it.
Yeah, you should.
So that's pretty interesting that he would go out there and pick a location and find the wind.
I'll tell you a funny story. I had a friend that was going over to the old course and playing, and then they took a side route and went over to Carnoustie and played. And he said while he was playing at Carnoustie, he said this guy was telling him stories about when Hogan won the Open. He was a rather old gentleman. And he said that Hogan didn't practice at Carnoustie. He went to a course that was around there to practice at. And he said, but they never could understand why he didn't hit balls where everybody else hit balls. He went out on the golf course and found a spot, and that's where he practiced. And I went, I can tell you exactly why he went out to that spot. And he goes like, well, tell me. And I told him about the chest and the wind and everything. And he goes like, how would anyone ever know that? And I said, unless you shag balls for him.
Yeah.
The answer is no, you would not know that.
Wow. So do this for us. Tell us, so cutting to the chase, Ben would bring out somebody working at the golf shop, somebody working in the bag room to be the guy to pick up to shag the balls. And you got picked one day and
Well, it's really more, it's really complicated but simpler than that.
okay.
So at that time, Shady Oaks was owned by Marvin Leonard.
Oh yeah, yeah, you told me
Okay,
about
so and Marvin Leonard had built Colonial.
okay.
In '55, he sold it to the members of Colonial, and he went over and built Shady Oaks. Well, when he went to Shady Oaks, he only took 100 members to Shady Oaks from his social group.
Okay.
So the volume of play there was almost nothing. So there were three people in the golf shop. There was Art Hall, the golf professional, Tom Sisolak, his assistant, and there was me. And I picked up the driving range. I swept the floors. I put out the members' bags and all that. Well, what happened was in putting out the noon game, which was the money game, between then and the time they came back in, there was really nothing to do.
Oh.
And so the caddies that showed up wanted to go with the noon game players because they made more money in for caddying or caddying. And it was really hard for Art to find somebody that would just go out with Hogan for a couple of hours and then come back. So it was natural that I would go out with Hogan once the noon game left because he very rarely played with them. And then when he finished practicing was about the time that they were coming in.
Yep.
And so I clocked back in to the golf shop and finished the rest of my day's chores.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I got rolled into that role. And the guys after me just started doing the same thing in their role too.
And he obviously liked you because you worked with him for like 3 years.
Well, I worked with him for almost 5.
Wow.
I started in '64 and stopped in '69
Wow.
when I went over to where I was going to college and working at a golf course there. So yeah, I saw him. He practiced probably 4 or 5 times a week, and we'd stay out for probably about, well, if you can consider chipping and putting, probably about 3.5 hours.
Wow.
So it's a pretty long session.
Walk us through, because again, Hogan fans would love to hear this. Give us a brief cut down of what the practice session worked like, driving out in the cart, and then what happened next.
His routine was not unlike everybody else's today. You know, he would start by simply just hitting a few warm-up shots, and then he'd work through the bag. I think the interesting part about his routine was the closer he came to playing in a tournament, the more precise he got with the routine. In other words, let's just say he's going to hit 10 or 12 pitching wedges. Well, he's just throwing them out there. He always worked on trajectory because he felt like trajectory controlled the distance the ball is going to fly, and that then allowed him to score. So he always hit through what he called windows in the sky. So he would hit the ball at different levels, and that then told him what that ball was going to do yardage-wise.
Wow.
Now, the closer he got to a particular, let's say he was going to go play Augusta.
Yep.
Okay, at that point, what he started doing is he started moving the ball in a sequence. Like, let's just say he's hitting a 7-iron, and he's just starting the 7-iron process. So the first ball, he'll cut it. The second ball, he'll hook it. And then he'll hit what looked like a pretty straight shot. And then he'd go to a cut and a hook and then hit a straight shot. But he was doing it with trajectories. But you would always see the ball come to you in different angles. And I got to the point where I understood what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so I'd come in and I'd just jokingly ask him, I'd say, where are you going to go play? And he would just wryly smile at me. And then he would either say, I'm going to Augusta next week or whatever, you know, going to Seminole to get ready for Augusta. But that was the routine that he did. And I think the other side that was pretty interesting is that when he hit shots, if it was a 7-iron or less, one of those balls was going in the bag.
Yeah, that bag, what's the top of the bag? This diameter?
Oh, yeah, it was a small bag. It held probably close to 100 balls. And so it was one of these bags that just stood up by itself. It wasn't a big footprint, but he would have the ball come in and it would bounce and go in the bag. And it was so funny because you saw it happen so often.
It was, yeah.
No, you just go like, okay. The bad part about the ball going in the bag was the fact that you had to find it, clean it off, because you didn't want a ball going
with the dirty
back to him that's got a grass stain on it or mud on it. And so you're looking in the bag, and all of a sudden you're realizing he's getting ready to hit another shot, and it's coming at me.
And it's not going to be far off.
No. And so you go, okay, well, I've got to find this ball, but at the same time, I need to pay attention to where this ball is.
Oh. You know what's great about it, too, with the trajectory, with the shaping, he had in his brain a TrackMan of sorts. I mean, he, like today, all the young players at TrackMan, Foresight, all these machines, he was doing it in his own mind and seeing it and even knowing the distances based on the trajectory. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, yeah. He figured out that in order for you to beat somebody, you had to control the flight of the ball. And then I don't think any player today is any different than that. They just got better tools to work with.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was way ahead in that part of the conversation about controlling the golf ball.
Wow, it's amazing. So all these years working with him, watching this, learning, at the beginning of it, you were just getting into the game of golf. Well, if you're from Texas or you played on a lot of the national level, Jody Vasquez is a name you know. I mean, in Texas, star player, Colonial Country Club, probably 8-time member club champion.
At least 7 technically.
7, but they
but who's counting?
And they stopped allowing him to play because he kept winning every year. So it becomes tougher. But your game developed, and I gotta believe it was from watching him, learning. Even if you weren't talking that much, because you're X amount of yards away from him, you're picking up information. Do you really? I mean, was it just the excitement of watching it, or just you learned so much it was easier for you to progress in your own golf life?
Well, there's a couple of things that really matter. Number one is that when you're watching him swing, and you watch a good player today, and if a good player kind of arms the ball, lays off of it, you can tell.
Yeah.
And you can tell when he goes through it. And so you could watch the ball land, and you could see that, okay, when he went through it, it had a lot more spin. And when he didn't go through it, it released harder. And so what happens is you understand that that motion creates this effect, and so you need to learn to do that motion. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things you pick up. The speed of the hips with the driver, how you're cutting the ball, how you're hooking the ball, all those things matter. And if you can watch somebody at that talent level do it, you don't have to really ask them any questions. You just watch them perform, and eventually it sucks through. Now, I will tell you this, and we were joking about this the other day. There are things that he did that I thought were really cool that I couldn't do. So it was one of those conversations. It was a trial and error. If I had something that I saw him do, and I'd go out after we finished practice, or he finished practicing, and I'd go out on the driving range and try to do it, and I'd go like, I can't do that. And so you progress past that. You find very quickly why he's as special, where my bar is right here and his bar is up here. So it matters.
Are you 78 years old? Your age?
Yes.
So Jody and I played in the Colonial member guests this spring, May. Now, unfortunately for myself, did not get an extra day to play it. It was a 2-day event. It was only 1 day.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I was 0 birdies in that round, and I missed a 4-footer on the last hole, 4 birdie, which still pains me to think about.
You'll get another shot.
Yeah, and it was, but it's beautiful, great place, the history, the course. But what I remember the most, Jody's 78, and what you were talking about, there's shots he was hitting all day long, and sometimes it was speedier through, sometimes dead armed, and hitting shots. But you've played Colonial hundreds, maybe thousands of times.
For 50 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was hitting shots that look like a stud player because he is. So it was fun for me to see that, because I've caddied on tour. I've tried to play myself. I've done a lot in the game of golf in the sense of being around good players. It was fun to watch. And again, I always kind of revert back to what you witnessed.
Very kind of you.
Because it was cool. It was cool to see, and it wasn't just a stock swing every time. It was you with the wind changing, with the type of approach to a green based on where you need to stop it or let it roll out. Yeah, it was impressive to see. So I was very pleased to enjoy that.
Well, I was really fortunate in the two personalities that I really concentrated on. One was obviously Mr. Hogan, and the other is Lee Trevino.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Great friends with Lee.
Lee's a good friend, and I mean they were so talented as far as being able to manage the golf shot. And so if you didn't pay attention and didn't appreciate that, then you're just in the wrong game.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Those are great benefits to have them
Oh,
around.
no, no question about that. Yeah.
So now, after you finish college and you're starting your business and starting your work life and growing and developing, you were able to you maintain a friendship with Ben Hogan for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough that I didn't necessarily filter into his social world, but I was on the fringe of it. And because of my relationship with mainly the Hogan people
Yep.
at his uh, Hogan Company offices, I'd stay in contact with him and really did so up until the time that he died. Surprisingly, Valerie and I probably in the later years spoke and visited more than I visited with him.
Okay.
She's just an incredible lady. Had a ton of stories that she shared with me, but she was very, very kind to me, and so yeah, I got to maintain that relationship for a long, long time.
And actually, that's another thing I wanted to show everyone. This is Jody's book, Afternoons with Mr. Hogan. Wonderful, wonderful story because you get some of these stories that people never knew. Ben didn't talk to a whole lot of people. He didn't share a lot of himself.
No, he was pretty private.
Yeah. So check this out. You can find it everywhere.
Amazon or
Amazon, all of
wherever.
it.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
great
been a
read.
very yeah.
And it's presented in a way because you met him as a boy, and then as you grew up, so he got a whole perspective of him. Just Jody's growing up, and then intermingling with the golf aspect, and even being at the Ben Hogan Company, seeing how they operate,
Right.
what goes on a daily basis there. So this is a wonderful read to check
Well,
out.
thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, I've got some old clubs. I get these on eBay, and I get them refinished. Ben, this is just a basic, the Ben Hogan Apex driver. Like,
Well, the funny part about this is that now they're coming out with a mini driver.
yeah,
This is a 265cc driver, and yes, it's very close to what the guys are hitting now. And yeah, the guy did a really, really good job in restoring this. The 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 pain of this product was the fact that you had to whip the winding on it.
yes,
I
I
don't.
did that as a teenager.
You did?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we used to just because you couldn't pop the shaft and insert another shaft, you had to go through and do this, and then the bore through was always there.
Yes.
And so these drivers were incredibly hard to work on. But
Would you just grind that down when they put the shaft in there? Would you just smooth it out?
yeah, before you actually finished it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No, I did some of that in the probably 84, 85. The pro at the club I worked at in Grand Forks, North
Yeah.
Dakota did it, and he taught me how to do it in whip clubs. Even that little loop that you got to like
Oh,
pull
yeah.
around and then pull tight.
Yes, you do.
I don't know if I could do it today, but it.
I couldn't.
And actually,
but it's good.
with you bringing up the point about the mini driver, I kind of like that idea that because I've been struggling with how far the guys hit it these days, and all these great courses are becoming less and they're harder for these guys to play because they can hit 2 irons on every hole and be fine. Whereas, so you got me to thinking that maybe the mini driver is the way back, but that's a whole different topic and a whole.
Well, it's a valid subject. I mean, the manufacturers bring back stuff that the players tell them they need.
Yeah.
And so that product fits the scope of how the game is played right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it has a reason for being there.
So these are some old. What year would you guess these Hogan Apex Plus golf balls are from?
This is a Balata covered ball, so it's probably a mid '80s ball.
Okay, so a little later, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a ball that if you hit it today would never perform the way you'd want to or expect it to do.
And even the dimple pattern, you've got, this is the old square, typical pattern. What was it, 336 dimples, or was there was
No,
a
it's
number?
392.
392, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that they varied and focused for some reason aerodynamically on that particular number of dimples. So it was like 390s ish. Uh, I don't know why getting to 400 was a problem, but I'm not a scientist, so I couldn't tell you that one. But
So
yeah, the thing that people don't realize that in the probably the mid to late 70s, the Hogan ball that they created there on the at the Pafford plant was preferred by players over every other brand, Titleist included. And so it was the one of the best performing golf balls in the marketplace during that era. For some reason, they stumbled on a formula that really worked. And so, but if you've ever been through a ball plant and watched how particularly the Bellata ball was made because of the winding,
yep,
it was really an incredible technology. The fact they even were able to produce that
and
kind of a
producing
golf.
hundreds of thousands of balls, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, that and it was really cool. I remember that one of the neatest parts about that process was the painting of the ball. So the ball set on like three little prongs,
Okay.
and then when it would go to where the paint gun was, there would be a blast of air that would push it off the prongs just very, very slightly.
Get paint right at those spots.
And then the paint would hit, and then the ball would obviously rotate to a different spot, and they'd hit it with three different blasts of air to cover the ball with paint.
Think of the engineering that they had to do, because too much pressure, wrong angle, this and that, they're flying off those
Oh no,
prongs.
yeah.
So they just the trial and error in that
Yeah.
aspect is incredible.
But it was really a cool process to see.
Oh, I bet you all that. I would love to see what you had seen with the Hogan Company, because it's just, who knows what really goes on unless you visited. Actually, and Jody had told me a pretty interesting story that if there was a PGA Tour player and they played Hogan equipment, Ben was very gracious with his time. But until Mr. Hogan died, everybody wanted to talk to him. Everyone. Tell us a little story about the Gary Player giving a call to Mr. Hogan.
Oh, yeah, that is a cool story, and it's I've heard different variations, but I understand because I was actually in the room when he took the call. We had just come back from practicing, and Art Hall leaned outside the golf shop door, and he said, "Mr. Hogan," he said, "there's Gary Player, who's a South African golfer, is on the line and would like to talk to you. He's in Australia." And so we walked over to Art's office, which was at the back side of the golf shop. And Art and I stood there in the doorway, and Hogan sat down at Art's desk and took the phone call. And of course, we could only hear one side of it.
Sure.
And so I think Player was playing McGregor or Dunlop.
Dunlop, I think it was. Yeah.
Was it Dunlop back
Yeah,
then?
the Max Fly Dunlop. Yeah.
So all we heard is, "You're going to have to ask Mr. Dunlop that question." And it was then something like, "Okay, well, goodbye." And apparently, Player was trying to ask him something about the golf swing, and he was going like, "Well, wait a minute. You don't play my clubs. You don't do anything with me. You go figure it out."
Yeah, call Mr. Dunlop for some advice.
Yeah, call Mr. Dunlop and ask him. So
I love it.
it was funny.
So this is when I was a kid. This was the Ben Hogan Sure Out wedge.
Yeah, that's a sure out.
It looks like there's like a pound of weight down here.
Oh, it was. It was incredibly easy to get this thing out of the bunker. You couldn't be very precise, or if in fact you had a hard surface like we do in Texas, you can't use this thing either. But this did a really, really good job in the marketplace for particularly double-digit handicappers.
Yes.
Yeah, there was
so much bounce on there. There was just so much space.
Well, it's not the bounce; it's just the width of
yeah.
the flange.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
because it doesn't have a tremendous amount of bounce.
No, it's probably only about a 10-degree bounce. But the fact of the matter is, the flange is so wide that it won't go into the turf. It wants to come out of the turf or come out of the sand, and so it's an awkward golf club to use if you've got firm surfaces to play off of. There was a guy named R.H. Owens that played in the money game at Shady Oaks, and he owned the lumber company. And so the deal was that Hogan had brought out the Sure Out Special sand wedge, which had about, I'd say probably about half this size of a flange on it. And it's more like the traditional Vokeys and clubs that we see today.
Yep.
And it was really good looking. And so RH was playing with him that particular day. And so he came in, and when he was walking through the golf shop, he said, Ben, he said, can you bring me one of those clubs tomorrow so I can play with it? And Hogan turned around and said, RH, you're not good enough to hit this club. He said, I'll bring you another one. And he brought him this one because he was about a 15 handicapper. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So your time with Ben Hogan, everyone wanted to talk to Ben Hogan. Everyone wanted to approach him. He didn't really have people come in, and he was maybe gracious to say hello, but he wasn't.
Well, there were actually Mrs. Hogan. Now I'm talking about the timetable of probably, I'd say probably mid-70s up until he died in 97. But in that timetable, he had two secretaries, Sharon Ray and Doxy Williams, and Mrs. Hogan, that took all his calls and arranged all his meetings and his calendars and everything. So yes, unless you were in that inner circle, no, you couldn't talk to him, and they wouldn't allow him to be talked to.
So you had to have been approached a lot by people saying, hey, I want to either throw this idea at Mr. Hogan, or I've got this product or this device.
Well, it was more of, it's more at that point of a sign. Can you get him to sign my book?
Oh, okay.
Or can you get him to sign his picture or something like that? And so it was more, a lot of people don't know this, and I don't know why they should, but Sharon Ray's main job was to keep a book of all of the people who sent items for him to sign. And believe it or not, he got around 2,000 items to sign every week in the mail. Every week.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's why she had to be a full-time person, because what they didn't want is for you to send some items this week, and next month you send some more, and you're selling the signature.
Yeah.
And so they would keep a log of you, and Sharon would go back when she received something and see if you had sent something before, and then if you had, she'd send it back to you and say, we've already signed. So I don't know what the volume of, yeah, we'll let him sign this, to the volume of, no, you can't have it, you take it back. But, for someone like myself, someone would come in and they'd send me something, and they say, can you go down and have him sign it? And so I'd call Doxy or Sharon and go down, and then he'd sign it for me, and then I'd send it back to him. But yeah, it was a lot of logistics that went along with him just signing stuff.
So when he was hitting balls, he had his own TrackMan in his brain, and he had an office for an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Basically they're accomplishing what you can do nowadays on a Excel spreadsheet, but they would have to track, and that's a great point. Like, people probably would want to then sell these signed items.
The funniest one was when I introduced Faldo to Hogan. Well, they took pictures in Hogan's office, and then Faldo sends me 6 copies of this one picture. And so I get them, and I'm looking at them, and I'm going like, oh, great, he's not going to want to sign all 6 of these. And so I went like, okay, well, I'll just take them over there and just see. So I'm standing there, and I hand him the photos, and he looks down and he looks up at me and he says, why are there 6 of these? And the only thing I could think of was to say to him was, the guy travels a whole lot. I said, I think he's got like 6 houses, in different countries in Europe and around. And he wants to put the picture in all of them. And Hogan just stood there and just stared at me. And he was going like, this is such a load of BS. And then he went ahead and signed them. And I was sitting there going like, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know.
Well, then tell us the inspiration for the Putt Master. And again, now we're going to get into the function of it, how to utilize it, what it can do to benefit you and any of your students if you're teaching the game of golf. But there was something that came before this that somebody wanted to share with Mr. Hogan. Is that accurate?
Well, that's not accurate in the terms I didn't want to share it with him. But I was playing in the Anderson Memorial at Wingfoot.
Okay.
Okay. And a friend of mine, Don Edwards, was tied into a guy named Bickler. And Bickler had a version of something like this, but it was a wire and it fit on the right hand only.
Okay.
Of course, when I saw it, I was enamored by it. And then Don wanted me to go back and work with it and then report back to him what he thought was a problem with it. And so I called Doxy and I said, hey, I've got something I want to show the old man. And can he see me tomorrow? And she said, yeah, come on over. And so I took it over to him and I went in and I put it on the putter, handed it to him. And I was going like, he's got to love this. And he looked at it and stood there and swung it. And he goes like, okay. And he hands it to me. And I said, do you want to keep that one? I can get another one. He said, no. I go like, you don't like it? He goes like, no. I went like, what don't you like about it? And he said, it doesn't do anything with your left hand and it gets in the way of your right hand. He said, it's not comfortable. And I went like, okay. And so I packed up my little goodies and left.
Yeah.
Well, I kept sitting there thinking about why didn't he like it? And so I built this in a stainless steel because a neighbor across the street was a guy that had a stainless steel manufacturing company, and he built kitchens for restaurants and stuff like that. And so I went over to Russell and I said, Russell, I've got an idea. And I showed him the drawing and I said, can you build this? And he said, yeah, come on over to the office and we'll make one. And it had screws for the extension is here. And then it was bolted and pretty much the same type of design, but it was all aluminum, truly a prototype. And so what I ended up doing with it is I ended up taking it back over to Hogan and showing it to him. And he said, yeah, that one's better. That one will work. And I went back and went like, God, I think I got something.
Yeah.
And so then we moved to where we are today.
Wow. Let's show everybody how you use it and
sure.
a couple of the aspects of it and the adjustability.
Well, the first thing I would tell the people that aren't familiar with it is that there's a button in the middle of it that allows you to adjust these two pads so you can get some width to your position. But what happens in the putting stroke is that if you give a beginner, particularly a putter, the first thing they do is hinge and unhinge the wrists. In that motion, you're creating a lot of problems with the golf club and the face angle of the golf club. So what we have to do is eliminate that process. We've actually improved this because we've given it the ability to be strapped here so that it's more secure. So when you've got it set on the putter, what you want it to do is allow you to make the swing motion. But as you can see, I can't hinge if I properly rest my arms inside the pads themselves.
And notice how everything's moving together. Shoulders, arms, hand, putter. It's all a flow.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize about the putting motion is that when you're going through the contact of the ball, if your right shoulder doesn't move with your body,
yes,
then what happens is your wrist will naturally hinge. So if your right shoulder continues to move, as you can see it's moving here,
yep,
then the wrist won't hinge. And if you watch good players on TV, what you'll see them do is maintain that position here, and that's why they're able to guide the putter face through the line of the putt.
Well, that's exactly it. Because if that putter face is flipping, you got to get almost lucky to be able to roll it on your line.
What you're wanting to do is just to make sure that in this motion you continue the strike.
Yeah, because
You don't want
the
to, yeah,
stop or the flip is,
yeah, that's the problem. If you start to stop the flip like this with the shoulder, then your hands are naturally going to go here, but you'll feel your arms moving off of the pad position. So what you want to do is make sure they continue here, and that motion in and of itself will make you a better putter.
now also let's put a couple down toward the camera line. I want to
Okay.
show what his design has done with these forearm brackets. They are then getting his forearms in line with the shaft of the putter, and that allows everything again to be more consistent and more repeatable, so you can do it over and over.
Yeah, there's a couple of byproducts of just setting your arms properly inside of the pads. And one of those byproducts is what you're just now talking about, and that's the angle. If you've ever tried to teach somebody how to line up a putt, you'll notice that they'll sometimes be here and they'll sometimes be here because they can't recognize the position of getting their arms in line with the plane. But if you put your arms and you specifically address the arms in the middle of the extensions here, then that'll put your shoulders in the proper place as well. So
And what
here,
it is taking out thought. It's allowing it just to set up in that optimal situation.
well, what we're trying to do is to create a repetitive motion that creates memory recognition so you don't have to think about these things. I mean, when you're putting, the worst thing you can do in a putting motion is to worry about mechanics.
Yes.
What you're trying to do is focus on line, and then you're trying to focus on distance.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you're sitting there trying to, okay, mechanically, I'm going to move my shoulder, I'm going to get my arms in the right spot, I'm going to go from that thought, and then now try to make the putt, the chances are you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really not a repeatable process. So, yeah, the Putt Master will add the elements to your putting motion that are going to be more intuitive, and so you don't have to worry about whether you're actually doing something. Your body will learn to do that process just like you learn to walk or ride a bike.
And that's why it so perfectly fits. The Putt Master fits perfectly with the Orange Whip products, because when I developed the Orange Whip, it was really to teach the swinging motion and great rhythm and
Exactly.
balance.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of was designing it for the poorer golfer, but the better golfer, the tour players, the top instructors immediately understood it, and they utilized it for themselves, but also for teaching and coaching. This is the same thing. It's not just for beginners. This is for every golfer, because you can't be too perfect in the uniformity of what's going on in your movement, so you can be consistent with it. So this is, tour players could benefit from this, but raw beginners going to their first clinic could benefit greatly just to know how to position their arms and hands on the club.
There's all kinds of testimonials that we've heard with the product in the last year and a half since we've been together, and they focus on the fact that it makes it so much easier for the player to experience the motion without having to be told what the motion is.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Because I've taught enough golf, and I've confused enough golfers in my early days by talking too much and giving too much input. If they can feel something, they're way ahead of the game.
They absolutely going to be better at it.
Awesome. Well, that was great, Jody. Thank you again for joining us here at Orange Whip World Headquarters.
Okay.
And I enjoy having him around, and playing golf with him is tremendous, but sitting and having a cocktail and talking about golf there's maybe nothing better.
No, it's always fun.
So thank you, everyone. Check it out. Go to orangeripgolf.com. Check out that Putt Master. It's one of those things that everyone can benefit from, and it's easy. We love easy. All right. Have a great day.